All right. Good morning, YouTube. How are we? Gayle, no pressure quite yet because we don't really we don't officially start the show until we got some people that kind of tuned in here. So I'm going to go over to the stream, see what we're dealing with. Go ahead and mute it. What's up, Convo Couch? What's up, Roland? What's up, Danny Camp? Good to see everybody. And we are almost at, oh, wow. We jumped up pretty quick. Gayle, they're excited to have you. They're excited to have you.
Well, thanks, Ron. I'm excited to be here.
And everybody who's saying, Ron, introduce your guest. The show has not officially started yet, okay? We're going to introduce the guest. It's okay. It's okay. Good to see everybody. What's up, DC? Howdy, howdy. What's up, Watson? Good to see you. Jordan, I would love to talk about that, but we're probably going to do it tomorrow because we got a guest today. So, and Roland, good call. We are past 30, which means the show has officially started. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, everybody. The world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means you guys tweet me articles at Ron Placone, and that's how we build the show. What happens when we have a guest? You guys know what happens when we have a guest. You guys get to ask them the questions. And today we have a guest. Our guest is Gayle McLaughlin. Gayle, first of all, Gayle is running for Lieutenant Governor of California. More importantly, though, well, not more importantly, but also going on that, building on that, if you will, Gayle has a history of fighting the establishment and winning. She beat big oil when it came to her town of Richmond, California, which, Gayle, you are a more humble person than I am, because if I beat big oil when it came to my town, I would just wear that T-shirt every day. I would have a shirt that said, I beat big oil in my town, AMA, ask me anything. That's what I do. I'd be like, ask me anything. I beat them. That's what happened. Myra says, hello, Gayle. Love you so much. People are stoked to see you, Gayle. How are you doing?
Well, thank you, Ron, for that great introduction. I am just really, really excited to be here and glad to be here with all of your guests and with you. And, you know, your reputation is so great as someone standing up to the establishment. So we're in this together.
Well, so let's fill some people in that might not be familiar with you first. So unpack what happened in Richmond when you had to take on Chevron.
Yeah, so back in 2003, a number of us were activists in the community, progressive activists, and we were recognizing that things weren't getting done in our city. Our city was a high crime city. It was, you know, high in poverty. And we had the whole city council in the hands of Chevron. We have this giant Chevron oil refinery in the city, and the whole city council was either purchased or intimidated by the oil giant. So we decided to become the leaders we were waiting for. And we formed a progressive alliance, the Richmond Progressive Alliance, the RPA, coming together based on our progressive values, regardless of party preference or, you know, no party preference. And we had two purposes: one, to build a local movement, and two, to run local candidates without any corporate money for local office. And I became the first corporate-free council member in Richmond, then went on to run for mayor, was reelected as mayor, termed out after 8 years, and ran for city council again. Altogether, I served 13 years as a corporate-free elected official. But I wasn't the only one in Richmond who was elected as an RPA member and without corporate money. As of November 2016, we have 5 corporate-free council members out of 7 sitting on the city council, all elected with no corporate money, and in spite of Chevron spending millions to try and defeat us. You know, they spent $3.5 million in 2014, and that's in a city of just a little over 100,000. So they were really threatened by our progressive movement, but we prevailed and had, you know, just a host of accomplishments. And I was just so proud to lead that transformative change in Richmond.
Yeah, you know, and I got to say, your story is very inspiring, because I'm trying to do something similar here where I live in Pasadena. My cause is municipal internet. A lot of the viewers have been following the journey that we've been on, because there's other people helping me out. And I'm trying to do something similar now. I'm really trying to build a movement behind it, a progressive movement behind it. And I'm really trying to get some people to kind of step in and run for office. My the guy that helps me with the show, Pasta, I'm trying to get him to run for city council.
Oh, and, Pasta.
I think we're slowly talking him into it. You know, I mean, I got use your noodle, vote for Pasta. I mean, come on, how can you?
Good slogan. I love
right?
it.
You can't lose. You can't lose.
Absolutely, I love it. Yeah, I had an opportunity to meet Pasta at the Costa Mesa Our Revolution candidate forum the other night, which was just great. And he's such a great, just rabble rouser, I guess you would say, and just voice of the people. So I think he'd be great.
So we have a question here, and so by the way, I should mention to you, Gayle, when you see me kind of looking around, I'm not distracted or not listening to you. What I'm doing is I'm trying to filter the questions the best I can. I have other people monitoring the chat, helping me, but they're sending me questions, and then I'm trying to see the people's questions myself, and I try to organize it in a theme that makes sense. But people can ask kind of whatever they want, so it doesn't always work out that way. So first question you got. This is from Pam. Can the Democrats be saved?
Excellent question. So I'm running for lieutenant governor as no party preference, NPP. I used to be a Green Party member during the years I served in Richmond up through 2016, and I switched from Green Party to no party preference to vote for Bernie Sanders in the election because NPPs could vote on the Democratic ticket. And then I stayed NPP, and the reason is because I think I can bring progressives together, progressive Democrats, Green Party members, Peace and Freedom Party members, and many others. So I support the good fight within the Democratic Party. There are those that are in the belly of the beast, so to speak. We know both parties are corporate controlled, but those that are fighting within the Democratic Party are revealing the real problems that this party has. And I think they're doing a good service by fighting within the party. I personally choose to stay outside of the party and fight that good fight. And like I said, bring progressives together in a big tent, regardless of party preference. I think we have to build that movement before any labels, get really finalized. I mean, we may need a new party, and I'm for multiple parties. So if the Democratic Party could be reformed, I don't know the answer to that. But there are many who think it can be, and they're fighting very hard, and they have the principles that I have. So I say go for it. If you could reform it, it'll be something really different than the Democratic Party ever was. So it'll sort of be like a new formation of the party. But I stay on the outside. I always have. I feel that's the place for me to be. And we need people inside and outside coming together, and we could really build that power that we need, that people power. And that's solidarity with one another. And that's what really, I think, will move us forward. And, I believe that's how we're going to get things done, because without that strength of a movement, things don't get done.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because like as far as people being on the inside and how that's important, because I've had to kind of check myself and remind myself of that. Sometimes I'm a little guilty of staying in my Southern California bubble. And I remind myself that, Bernie Sanders, what he is doing from the inside is he is really unmasking the corporatocracy for what it is. And every time he proposes legislation that, corporate Democrats support when it's convenient for them, but then back away from later, he's exposing more and more. And, to many of us, well, we already know this stuff. Well, a lot of people don't. Our movement is still very small. That's just the reality of it. And we need to make it larger and larger. So instead of saying, what I'm saying is, whether we like it or not, we need some people on the inside poking the machine. That's just the reality of it. And Bernie, whether it was intentional or not, fell into that role, and now he's playing that role, and we need someone to. It might as well be the most popular politician in the country. Is this his strategy? I don't know. I can't. I'm not him. I don't know. But it seems like we do need somebody to do that. Right now, it's him, and somebody's got to.
I agree with you 100%. He really has exposed the party and all the problems with the party. And that's such an incredible, eye-opening experience for so many people. And so, like you say, he's exposed things, he pulled away the veil, if you will, of that was, disguising the Democratic Party. And people are awakened, and they are saying, hey, we didn't know this was how our party operated. We would like to change it. And we're going to fight to change it. And that's important. So, we're all fighting for the same thing inside and outside. And, I don't know Bernie's strategy either. So regardless of, what his strategy is, we know he did some phenomenal stuff, and he's still doing that. He isn't afraid to take on the establishment within the party. And I wasn't afraid to take on the establishment in Richmond. Within our city council. And that's important, because you can reach the people by really exposing, what's happening in your city and your state and your country. And, from there, people rally around the issues that you're standing for and that they stand for. And, like in California, we have single payer Medicare for all, free public college, a public bank we need to tax the 1% and ban fracking, so much more. And we did, we have a track record in Richmond. I just want to share that because in Richmond, not only did we defeat big oil in the electoral arena, but we did things like pass minimum wage to $15 an hour. We passed the first new rent control law in California in 30 years. We decreased crime dramatically. We got a 75% reduction in homicides while I was mayor. We also got over $100 million in additional taxes from Chevron. We limited their pollution, sued them in court, and we did many, many green job training initiatives. And we joined a community choice energy program where our residents get cleaner and greener energy. So these are, with a track record of getting things done, holding on to my principles, holding on to my, strong backbone, and working shoulder to shoulder with the community. I want to do something similar, in a collective way in California. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what I bring to the table. And Bernie has helped that surge of bringing progressive values to the forefront. And, I'm just happy to be in solidarity with him as well.
Nice. So Jordan wants to know, and this is kind of going on what we just talked about, but it's slightly different. So I want to ask this question. Jordan wants to know, what would you say to progressives who think everyone should green enter to show that we are united not only across the country, but globally as well?
To green enter, he said.
To green enter, yes.
Yeah. So, I don't think that we should, call on I think the Green Party should keep trying to build itself. And, that's what is happening. People are entering the Green Party. That's what the question is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, those who choose to enter the Green Party, and like I said, I was a member of the Green Party for many years, and I still hold those 10 key green values. So in that way, I'm still a green person, But I have chosen to be MPP. Others, may choose to stay in the Democratic Party. Others are part of the Peace and Freedom Party. So, I say, do what you think is best for you. And I support the building of third parties, the growth of the Green Party, the growth of the Peace and Freedom Party. Countries in Europe have multiple parties, not just three. They have many, many parties. The fact that we're limited to two big parties and third parties are struggling so much is really a crime. We should be, fostering and, helping to make flourish a multi-party system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing that most democracies have many parties, and here in the United States, we only have one. At least one.
Right.
So we're getting some like election specific questions because it is, especially here in California, the primary is coming up. So Myra wants to know, do you have a list of endorsements to guide us when we vote? And I'll tweak that question a little bit for you, Gayle, and kind of take it a little broader. Are there any kind of voter guides that you like, that you kind of like not necessarily lean on, but use as a starting point? You know, the way I do it, I go to organizations that I'm pretty much aligned with, and I'll see what they're saying as a starting point to then do my own digging. You know, is there anywhere you like to go?
Right. Well, you know, first of all, I have had so many endorsements, and I'll share who I'm endorsing in a second, but I want to share that I've been endorsed by the National Our Revolution Group and nearly 40 local California chapters of Our Revolution, and the State Green Party and the Peace and Freedom Party, many many California chapters of the Green Party, the National DSA, many local DSA chapters. I've been endorsed by Ralph Nader, by Bill McKibben, by Tom Amiano, and just by a host, by the Movement for a People's Party, and so many other groups, by the Justice Party. So that has given me, you know, this kind of base of groups that I can connect with and who are making their own endorsements above and beyond my race. But I also have formed a group of progressives in California that I support. So people could go to my website. It's gayleforcalifornia.org, GAYLEFOR California.org. And if they they click on endorsements, and the drop-down menu, it says the second entry on the drop-down says Gayle Force. And we're calling ourselves Gayle Force. And if you click on that, you'll see a list of candidates that I have endorsed. And really, you know, they're all corporate-free candidates. That was one of the criteria that I have for making my endorsements. And they're all very, you know, have good values and, you know, strong principles. You know, we're coming together as people who have these values and who are running for office. So people can click on that to find out who I'm endorsing. But there's other groups that have put out their voter guides. The Bernie Kratz of San Francisco Bernie Kratz has a list of endorsers. What is it called? The group of pissed off voters, something like that, pissed off voters might be the title. They've endorsed me, and they also have a list of endorsements. Justice Party, Green Party, you know, Peace and Freedom Party, they all have their list of endorsements. So, and these are all corporate-free groups. So you know, even though we might differ on one or two candidates here and there, you know, we're pretty much on the same page. So people check out any of those, but I would definitely recommend going to my website and look at Gayle Force. It's called Gayle Force, by the way, because the East Bay Express did a cover page article on me early in the campaign, and they titled it Gayle Force. Like, you know, I'm bringing this force, the force of the grassroots. It's really not. Hopefully I'm showing my force as well, but it's more of a collective force. And so as candidates started seeking my endorsement and we mutually endorsed each other, since I'm the highest on the ticket in terms of this group that have come together, we call ourselves Gayle Force, for what it's worth, but we are a force.
Well, and Gayle also, you know, and you don't need to be public with this one because it's not as cool of an endorsement, but you did get the endorsement from the group of pissed off comedians. I know that because right now I'm the only member. It's just me, but I endorsed you. So you got.
Well, thank you, Ron. Yes,
I'm trying to get some other folks on board, but right now it's just me. So I speak for the group, and we are as corporate free as it gets too. We're also another corporate free group.
There you go. Well, you know, I am just proud of your group, and I know it's going to grow substantially.
So. We can only go up from here. We can only go up. We're starting with. On this pillar, I build my house, or whatever the hell it is. I don't know.
It's got to start with one person, and why not you?
Well, so everyone should go check out that website. But we did get some specific questions. People want to know, are you supporting anyone for California governor? We've got a few people that want to know about that.
Okay, so I haven't made a formal endorsement for governor. The candidate, there are a few candidates that, you know, I share values with. One, Delaney Stand, for the most part, I share values with. There's a couple of you know, things that we might not be exactly on the same page with, but I would say, most things we are, and I would work really well with her. Also the Green Party candidate, Josh Jones. Actually, I think those might be the only two. There was another candidate running who dropped out, Michael Bracamontes, who also had very strong progressive values, but all three of them were running corporate free. So now I think it's down to Josh. The Peace and Freedom Party has a candidate running corporate free as well. Gloria, I'm sorry, I forget her last name, Devera or Lavera. You could look up Peace and Freedom Party and learn more about Gloria. But that's, if by chance we could get a corporate free governor in office, that would be awesome. I would just love to work side by side with such a governor. But regardless of who gets in, if we get a corporate controlled or, a wishy-washy, talking out of both sides of his mouth type governor, which, we may very well get, I will work fine with that person, which when I say work fine, that means that I will keep my principles when we have issues that are in line with one another. I will unite with that person. And when we have issues that are separate, when we don't share the same position, I'll stand for my position without bending. And I have that experience from Richmond. Sitting on the city council, I was a minority of one for 4 years, 2 as a council member and 2 as mayor, where I was the only RPA member. And I stood my ground consistently among the other, the corporate controlled council members. So I'll do the same. And we'll try and convince the governor, whoever it is, to take on the people's agenda. And when he won't, we'll expose him for that, and we'll make it clear that our people's agenda is going to rise to the top, because we'll use the lieutenant governor's seat to publicize things. So that's how I see it happening.
See, you can start at a table for one in city council and really transform it. Pasta, hope you're taking notes, buddy.
There you go.
You got to do that in Pasadena real soon.
That's right.
So, and I'll say this for Delaney Stand. I like Delaney. There are a few issues I'm a little, that doesn't make me feel great. But I understand her perspective when she unpacks them. I just hope that if push came to shove, she would make the right decision for the public interest. But I'll say this for her too. When she did my show, when the idea of Senate came up, she said, "Oh, I'm thinking Feinstein." That was what she said then. Now she's touring with Pat Harris a bunch. And she's really connected. What I'm saying is
that's good. That's good.
What I'm saying is I think that she has really come around to a lot of things. And to me, that shows a person that is willing to evolve, is willing to own their past missteps, and wants to do the right thing, and is very intelligent. And to me,
absolutely,
those are the things that make a great leader. I don't need somebody that's going to just check every single box for me with their words right away. I want somebody that can really prove to me that they want this position, that they have the right intentions. And I feel like Delaney has really come around on the campaign trail.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, initially she had a few corporate donations or a few developer donations, and her supporters pushed her and said, why not go corporate free? You're almost corporate free anyway. And she agreed to it, and she returned those corporate donations, those developer donations that she had already received. That shows integrity. She put out a press release saying, I'm going corporate free. I returned my donations to the few corporations that did donate, and now it's only individuals. And I just see that as a sign of integrity.
So we got some more questions here for you, and this is a fun one. This is from Joseph, and I'm going to take notes on this answer too, because I really want to get municipal internet in my community. What is the key to creating a progressive coalition alliance in California? I'll expand that. I'll just say anywhere, right? How can anybody do what you did in Richmond as far as creating a progressive alliance goes?
Right. So the way I see it is we have to build it city by city. So over the last year, I've been traveling up and down California. Even before I took on this statewide campaign, I was giving presentations about the Richmond story and encouraging the development of progressive alliances. And over the past little over a year, we've had about 11 or 12 new progressive alliances emerge based on the RPA model. You know, could be a little different. They take what makes sense to them and start to build in their own community, and that's what we want. So, what I believe is the way to get there, and through our own experience. And by the way, I wrote a book called "Winning Richmond: How a Progressive Alliance Won City Hall," and people can Google that, or they can go on my website and make a donation and get a copy. And it does go into detail and how we did it, and you know, the ups and downs along the way. But I would say the main thing is to come together as a diverse, inclusive, year-round, progressive corporate-free organization. I say year-round, year in and year out, because not just during election years. You have to keep the organization going even in non-election years. And so we did that in Richmond. And don't worry about party preference. You know, come together based on values, and then build local political power and run candidates without corporate money. So that's happening in South Bay Progressive Alliance around San Jose. That's happening in San Diego Progressive Alliance, and the North Coast People's Alliance. It's happening up and down the state. Like I said, 12 new progressive alliances. Now, to get to a California Progressive Alliance, I think it's important to start, like I said, at the city level, and then build a network of municipal or, you know, regional progressive alliances. And then we could, you know, share what we're doing with one another, and have that statewide power to pressure the legislature on the state issues that can't happen on a local level. You could do so much on a local level, but you can't do it all. So there's some things we're going to have to come together, and we'll already have built that solidarity and that local political power through our local progressive alliances. That's really important, because that's where you build solidarity with your neighbors, with your co-workers, with your community members. And that's the authenticity of addressing real solidarity. And people need to be involved in the issues that affect their lives in their, you know, in their neighborhoods, in their city. And that excites people a lot. So that's, to me, the start.
So is it helpful then to kind of have a common cause or list of common causes? You know, like for instance, maybe Chevron coming into the town attracted you to the group, or maybe municipal internet in your community attracted you to the group, or maybe rent control attracted you to the group. Is that kind of an important pillar to have as well in your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Chevron, we did have this big refinery that was polluting our community, and our community living under this reputation of this dirty oil refinery. You know, Richmond didn't have a good reputation. So we had to shift that, and by pushing back on Chevron and building up the quality of life for our residents. But there are other issues, like you say, municipal internet is something that people can rally around. That's the issue that's taking hold in your community. You know, run with it, or whatever. If it's some big development that people are saying they, you know, think is really a bad scenario for their community, run with that. One thing that that we learned in the RPA is that, you know, we have our own ideas about what's important for our communities, and you know, there's usually truth to those ideas, but we don't always have every knowledge of what's good for every member or every neighborhood in the community. So we have to listen to the members of our community. We held a people's convention in Richmond in the first year of the RPA in 2004. We had the Richmond People's Convention, and we heard from the community what were their issues. And then we added them to issues that we, as a smaller group of progressives, had already identified. So we need to bring the issues that we as progressive leaders already have in our consciousness and add to them other issues that emerge from our community. And the ones that emerge at the top, we should run with and really, bring them into the light and get people to use them in their platform.
So this is from Berto Sisi. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but so Berto Sisi, I live in Minnesota, and despite being a fairly blue state, which by the way, shout out to Minnesota, Minneapolis, one of my favorite cities in the world. Despite being a fairly blue state, there seems to be a lack of progressive candidates. What's the best way to be informed if you don't live in the California progressive bubble?
Yeah, so there are some good office holders in Minneapolis. I know that I don't have the names off the off the tip of my tongue. But I used to be, when I was on the city council and when I was mayor, I was a part of a national group called Local Progressives. And if you Google, I think it's Local Progressives, or Local Progress, excuse me, localprogress.org or localprogress.com. Try those URLs, and you will see I think there's 500 local progressives all over the nation who came together as a network. Now, that doesn't mean every one of them is corporate free, as I would see as a really important necessity. But I know there's some strong people from Minneapolis and have been doing some good work that are serving on their city council. So I think her name is Helen. I'm sorry, Helen, I can't remember her last name, but she's very, very strong. So I would say, and the whole idea of building a progressive alliance, I don't know how many candidates and elected officials in cities outside of California have done this. I know there has been some, but I would encourage your elected officials or your candidates to run with an organization, because when you run as a solitary person, even if you do have good values, you're really not getting the traction that we need in our democracy. We need an organization. It helps the candidate and the elected official, because we all need that that brainstorming and that research that volunteers can help you with. And when you're in office, and of course as a candidate, you can use that as well. And that organization is necessary to build true democracy, because even if we have every seat filled with true progressives from school board all the way up to president, and we don't have a movement of engaged citizens, that's not true democracy. So we need to really have those organizations being built. So get a small group together in Minneapolis or anywhere in Minnesota or whatever state. Start meeting frequently. Identify new candidates to run without any corporate money, and just keep going forward and never turn back. That would be my advice.
Awesome. All right, we got some more questions here. I'm going to keep them coming. Hey, Ron and Gayle, thanks for everything you both do. Thank you. It's very kind of you to say. Gayle, as Lieutenant Governor, what would be your first legislative push for the Senate? Free public college, Medicare for all, public funding only for elections? ? What would you want to do first?
Yeah, so, there's so many issues in California that are so important. Housing is big, but free public college and Medicare for all, those are all very, very important issues. And so I would say what I would push for, in the very early part of my first term, hopefully there would be a second as well, as Lieutenant Governor, would be to pull progressives together and pull people from the Medicare for all movement that are, really experts on SB 562. And the California Nurses Association has been very, very strong on that and really in the lead on that. So I bring people from CNA, into a progressive think tank with me so we can brainstorm. And I pull people, students groups that are involved with the free public college. I've already met with so many student groups that are working on this issue. And, and other unions that are working on the free public college as well, faculty groups and graduate student unions and such. So pull these leaders, representatives of these groups together, as well as those who have been working on the housing issue. And then we strategize, we brainstorm, we decide how to mobilize and pressure the legislature. Now, I'll be president of the Senate as Lieutenant Governor, but I won't have a vote unless there's a tie. But I will have the bully pulpit. So I could use that to highlight all the issues, SB 562, free public college, the fact that we need to address the housing crisis, which means rent control laws in all our cities and repealing Costa-Hawkins, which which prevents us from protecting all renters. We can only protect renters in older buildings with Costa-Hawkins in place. So repealing that law and setting up some real affordable housing initiatives and a California public bank. I'm in touch with experts on all these issues and, emailing them, talking with them, been on forums and panels with them. Well, I want to bring people into one room and we decide which issue should we highlight first, and how should we do it? Give me all the facts that let me absorb them, and let's plan our strategy. Let's plan press conferences, rallies, demonstrations, pressuring elected officials, whatever needs to be done. So at this point, there's a few, issues that rise to the top that I've already mentioned, but I need to have that kind of progressive think tank in place more than anything.
So let's stay on 562 for a little bit here, because for anyone not in the know, or SB 562 was the single payer bill here in California. The Nurses Association brought it up. They were told by the powers that be, hey, this is what the bill needs. They followed those rules, and then Anthony Rendon said, oh wait, this doesn't have this, this, and this. We are tabling this. And tough apples. And that was the extent of it. So now it's just kind of sitting there. They're refusing to help. They're just saying this bill's done. That's a very Cliff Notes version of it all. Of course, there's more than that, but for the sake of time, that's the Cliff Notes version. And for those of you that are non-Californians, this is still important because if a state like California got single payer done, it would spread across the country. So Gayle, as Lieutenant Governor, what kind of strategies could kind of bring SB 562? And I know we're kind of speaking generally at this point, but are there any kind of strategies that can kind of bring SB 562 back into the spotlight?
Right. Yes, Ron. So, what you're saying is very true. There's been so much of a surge to pass single payer Medicare for all, which is 562 here in California. And when Anthony Rendon, the Speaker of the Assembly, when it came into his hands, instead of letting it be discussed on the floor like all bills should be, no bill is, or seldom are bills in complete form when they're discussed. Their amendments are made, little tweaks here and there before they finally get passed. But he chose to just put it on the shelf and not even let it be discussed. And that was a real injustice. So, many of us, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's video footage of him hinting at the fact that he didn't even read the thing.
Right.
Like there's video footage where it's not even clear he read this. You know what is clear, though? All the big pharma money he gets. That's something we know for sure.
Absolutely, Ron. He gets lots of big pharma money, lots of insurance company money. And that's what forced him. That's what, what influenced him to set it aside. So people have demonstrated, people have held marches and rallies. I marched and rallied in front of his office with many groups in LA and said, put it back on the table. Now that hasn't happened, obviously. So what do we do from here? That's the question. So I have heard some people say that maybe we should bring forward a new bill, with some of the things that people are complaining about, or a revised 562. Now, the fact is that there was a financial plan associated with 562, and they want to say there wasn't enough of a financial plan. There actually was, but maybe we could put it in a more, clear and, just put it in the forefront of the bill, so it's very clear that there is a financial plan, and it still will need to be discussed and perhaps amended and such. So I've heard people say we need to amend it first, then bring it back. Others say we just should keep pushing to get this same bill back on the floor. So I'm just knowing that we need something along the lines that has come forward by the way of SB 562, and I'll push like crazy to make sure that we get something there.
Well, you know what's interesting? The economic argument, even if they did absolutely nothing, to my understanding, even if they did absolutely nothing, which, yes, there's still more that they could do. There's still more tweakage that could be done from an economic standpoint to make it as feasible as possible. But even if they did absolutely nothing, we would still be paying less in a GDP sense on healthcare than we pay now. So when they throw that number at you, it's just nothing but propaganda, because when you look at it from a percentage standpoint, we would still be paying less. So it's almost like saying, oh man, hey, you have a car bill that's currently $300 a month. Here's a car bill that's $200 a month. And what they're telling you is like, we can't afford another $200 a month. Neglecting to say we wouldn't be paying the $300 a month one anymore. We wouldn't be paying that one anymore. That one goes away. That one goes away.
Right. They really do misinform the public, and
Gayle, I suck at math. I am not good at it. I didn't even take math my senior year of high school because I could get out of it. And in college, I took the one required thing I had to do. I hate doing my taxes. I don't keep good records. I put my receipts away until the end of the year. I am not a math dude. But even I can figure that one out. So it's not that they don't get it. It's that they're choosing not to tell you the story.
That's the full truth of the matter. Yeah. So it's the fact that, people would not have to pay premiums. They would not have to pay co-pays, would not have to pay deductibles. All this is something that has to be factored in. We are in a situation now that, in Richmond, for example, 20% of our residents don't have health insurance because they can't afford it. So when we put forward this, this policy that we all want, Medicare for all, that has to always be said. So thank you for saying that. It is far cheaper. It is far more efficient and, economically efficient for our communities. Now, if it to get it started, if it needs a little startup money to get it off the ground, well, California is the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yes.
And if we can afford to, really give all these tax breaks to corporations and, in general, just, not, if corporations paid their fair share of taxes, let's face it, we'd have a whole lot more money. With Prop 13 reform, for example, closing the corporate loophole, we'd have $11 billion in additional taxes in the state coffers. So we have the money. We have the money, and we can put it in the right places. And just getting some startup for Medicare for all is not really a problem at all. And so, we just have to keep putting that out there. And as you say, it is a cheaper system. It is a more efficient system. And more than that, it's a human right to have health care for everyone. And right now, healthcare is being dealt with as a commodity. And that is not the way to have a humane society. So we have to just keep pushing the envelope on that.
All right. So we're slowly, the clock is ticking, and we still got a lot of questions. So I'm going to keep firing. Balthazar, thank you for the super chat contribution. Balthazar wants to know your stance on municipal cellular coverage for 911 next. I think that's I'm not super fluent in what that is specifically, but I think it refers to 911 coverage, like municipal coverage, because 911 calls do sometimes fail. Would you support like a municipal stepping in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not real familiar with that particular approach, but we don't want 911 calls to fail, and we definitely should have every assurance by use of any entity, and certainly municipalities should step in and fill that gap if the 911 calls aren't working. The cellular, I know there's some issues, because we had some issues in Richmond, now that I recall, where they said, oh, if you're going to call 911, don't call from your cell phone, per se. But then that got rectified, and I don't recall what the approach that was used to rectify it. But I definitely agree that municipalities should step in to make sure that cellular 911 calls go through.
So Watson wants to know, and Watson, thank you very much for your super chat contribution. Would Gayle expose and stop the mainstream media working war agenda? ? Watson, with all due respect, I'm pretty sure that's not something Gayle can do by herself. Follow-up question: will you bring about world peace?
Oh, hey, gee, yes, I will.
That's not
I wish I alone could do that. But I think it's a good question because, and it gives me an opportunity to share a little bit, because even though as lieutenant governor, I wouldn't have like a vote on Congress, or a federal policy vote, you can still make the links. Like if we didn't put so much into our military budget, we'd have more money to give to states and cities. And that's how it should be. Even as mayor on a city level, I always tried to draw the links to state policy, national policy, and international policy whenever possible, because we are a global society. So I used to be a member of CISPIS, the Community in Solidarity with the People of El Salvador, worked as an anti-war activist for years. And so I always say, our country is out there in so many countries around the world, causing havoc, causing pain, suffering, death. And that has to stop. We need to put the money not in a war budget, but in the people's needs budget. So I would do everything I can to connect those dots whenever possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it is a good question. I'm just teasing. But but the thing about it is it is very weird where we're supposed to have a corporate media that holds politicians responsible. And we actually have situations where it's the other way around, which is problematic and should never occur. However, in our world, or in our country at least, it does. And I think whenever an elected official kind of calls out the war machine to any degree, whether it's as a mayor, as a lieutenant governor, whenever they point out the fact that, gee, we're never at a need when it comes to bomb money.
Right.
And we don't talk about this. And budget gets passed and it gets no coverage at all. And some of us are really outraged about this. That matters a lot. And that is very important. And it's a hard thing to do politically for anybody. But, as far as being an elected official goes. But it's essential and it's necessary because the media is failing us on it.
That's right. The media absolutely is failing us. And that's why, having alternative media is so important, whether social media or, alternative radio and, TV, Democracy Now! And such, as all that is so important to us. And I would say that there are ways for elected officials. I mean, when I was mayor, I was part of Mayors for Peace. And that was a global organization. And we put forward resolutions to the U.S. Mayors Conference to take money away from the war budget into cities' needs. So there are ways that you can form a network of elected officials, community leaders, etc., and pressure the federal government to do what's right by the people. We just have to raise our voices collectively and never stop. That's the problem. It's not just an election year approach. People, sometimes get excited around election years and then afterward they go to sleep. And we need people to stay activated year in, year out. Let's build this, a real movement for change, getting money out of the military, getting corporations to pay their fair share of taxes, getting peace. I mean, I always like what Martin Luther King said, during the Vietnam era, every bomb that bursts in Vietnam also explodes on our city streets, because the money going to Vietnam isn't coming to our cities for the needs of our communities. And therefore, young people get desperate and they often turn to violence. So anyway, we need to really stress the anti-war issue as well.
All right, so we got just a few more. So I'm going to give you these rapid fire style, and then we're going to give you the rest of the time to kind of plug everything you need to plug to get people out on June 5th. So as Lieutenant Governor, would you push to reinstate California's misdemeanor marijuana possession law for minors under 21, since now with legalization, minors are again able to be prosecuted under federal law?
Yes, yeah. So I definitely would work to repeal that. We do not want, this marijuana convictions. People are just, stuck in jail for these offenses. Now marijuana is legal in California. We really need to address this situation and empty out our prisons of these nonviolent offenses and really, address, address the needs, the real needs, and give people who are in prison, even if they did have a heavier offense, opportunities to get out of prison and lead a fulfilling life.
So going on that topic, DC wants to know, what are your ideas on how to solve the banking problem for the fastest growing industry in California, cannabis? Should we have a state bank, a legal cannabis state credit banking coalition, which I feel like if we're going to go that route, we should have some kind of cool acronym. I haven't thought of one yet, but I think,
yeah,
I think that would be an important part.
Right. Yeah. Cannabis dispensaries and cannabis cultivators will certainly benefit from a public bank. Right now, they have to use cash because the private banks won't let them do business with them because of the federal law. And with a public bank, we set the rules. We in California, if we have a statewide public bank, which I am standing for. There are also many cities standing for municipal public banks and regional public banks. LA Public Bank Institute is working really, really hard, or coalition, I forget the exact title, but they're working hard to get an LA public bank. And in the East Bay, we're working with a number of cities to get a regional bank. San Francisco is doing its thing around a public bank as well. So we should have as many public banks on whatever level of government we can. Statewide, we certainly should keep pushing for it. The Bank of North Dakota, the Public Bank of North Dakota, has been in existence for 100 years and done very, very well. And yes, it will help marijuana dispensaries and cultivators, and it will help so many other needs, infrastructure needs, affordable housing needs. A public bank is in the interest of the public good, whereas the private banks are in the interest of putting the money in their pockets for higher and higher profits.
So last thing, Gayle, and this is not so much a question as a statement, and I feel like it's a good way to end. Melissa says, we have a progressive lieutenant governor here in Vermont. I guess that's where Melissa's at.
Yes.
First in the Progressive Party to be elected to that office, and he is very outspoken and is able to bring his issues to light. I bet Gayle would do the same.
That's wonderful. David Zuckerman, the Lieutenant Governor of Vermont, the independent Lieutenant Governor of Vermont, came to Richmond to support my campaign, did a fundraiser for me, endorsed me. I'm very honored to have his endorsement. We talked about if I get elected, there'll be 2 independent Lieutenant Governors, each on one of the coasts. And we will encourage others to really build a independent movement in all their states for whatever executive seats they choose to run for. So that's definitely a good thing. I'm very honored, and he stands up to the corporations and the establishment politicians, and I would most definitely do the same thing.
So, Gayle, please use the remaining time here. We are out of time. Thank you so much for being so generous. But please tell people where they can learn more, where they got to go. Please plug your website again and tell them what they need to do on June 5th.
Yes. So we have less than 2 weeks left before the June 5th primary. So please go to my website, gayleforcalifornia.org, and volunteer, donate if you can. I want to share with people that I will be in New York City on June 1st. I'll be sharing the stage with Jane Sanders, talking about the state of politics in our country and how we got here. I'll also this is at the Left Forum. So look up Left Forum. And if you're in New York or can get to New York, I would love to have you there and have a chance to meet new people. I will also be on a panel with the Movement for a People's Movement. And not only will I be on that panel, but David Zuckerman will be on that panel as well. So, and others as well. And I'll be on even another panel. So on June 1st and June 2nd, I'll be on 3 different speaking engagements at the Left Forum. If people can come, please do. I would love to meet people in person, and I would love to share more of my message. And ultimately, I tell people, please, please get involved. This is not the time to sit on the sidelines. You know, there is no waiting for this storm to pass. We have to be involved and push things, you know, forward. And, you know, there's no time like the present. It's a time of struggle, but we can do it. If we struggle today, the future is ours. So please check out my website and get involved.
And what's that website one more time?
It's GayleforCalifornia.org. GAYLEFOR California.org.
Love it. Guys, thank you so much for all of your wonderful questions for Gayle. You knocked it out of the park as usual. GayleforCalifornia.org. And you know the drill here. Patreon.com/Ron Placone if you are so able. And Graham Elwood and I are touring. We're going to the Southeast in June. June 20th through the 24th. We'll be in Nashville, Huntsville, Asheville, North Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, and Atlanta, Georgia. Tickets and more info can be found at my website, ronplacone.com. Thank you guys so much for being part of this. Thank you so much for your excellent questions for Gayle. Remember to get out on June 5th and vote for her. And last but certainly not least, do not forget that Gayle fought Big Oil and Gayle won. Gayle fought Big Oil and Gayle won. Thanks so much, Gayle. You're wonderful.
Thank you, Ron. Great song. I appreciate it.
Peace, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. See you then.
Bye-bye.